I'm a growth manager on Google Cloud's Apogee team. I'm thrilled today to be your host as we kick off our webinar, Unleashing the Power of AI Agents Through Integration. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today. We know that in today's fast-paced digital world, leveraging AI is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. And businesses are constantly looking for ways to innovate and improve efficiency. But connecting AI agents to all your existing systems can be really complex and challenging. And that's exactly why we're here today, to show you a clear path forward to that. Throughout the session today, you'll learn how to unlock enterprise data for your agents and seamlessly integrate AI into all of your operations. We'll be diving deep into a few key areas, which include discovering how to build and enhance AI agents by bringing enterprise truth to your agents, ensuring reliable execution of agents by learning the best practices for building agents and that can execute critical business processes for you. And we'll also show you how to securely connect those agents to all your existing systems to help you break down any silos and create an intelligent, unified workflow for your business. And lastly, we'll highlight some real-world use cases so you understand how this is put to use today from other organizations. I'm going to advance the slide one, please. Thank you. Just a quick note on logistics before we get started. We'll have a Q&A session at the end. Feel free to submit your question at any time throughout the webinar, though. You can do that by simply clicking the 6 dots in the bottom right-hand corner of your Google Meet screen on the Q&A panel. Okay. Now to get us started, I'd like to introduce 2 key members of our team that will guide you through the content today. Pulkit and Mehdi join us from our customer engineering team, and they'll be our main speakers. Over to you two.
Perfect. I think I'll start with an introduction, and I'll hand over to Pulkit to introduce himself. So hi, everyone. My name is Mehdi. I'm one of the customer engineers focused on APIs and integrations based out of Dubai, helping customers across the Middle East, Turkey, and Africa. And Pulkit, your turn.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, everyone. My name is Pulkit Mathur. I'm on the same team as Mehdi, helping our strategic customers in the Benelux region become successful on APIs and integrations, but focus more on the Benelux region. I have a background of about 15 years in APIs and integrations. So happy to be here and looking forward to all of your questions. Over to you, Mehdi.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much. Introductions are out of the way. Thank you all for attending. Hopefully this will be a fruitful, useful session so that you can understand exactly how we position application integration, Google Cloud application integration throughout the agentic world, including Google Cloud, Google Agent Space. Okay. To begin, here's the agenda. So as you can see, we're going to start with a quick introduction, explaining what is Google Agent Space, as well as explaining the connection with Google Cloud Application Integration. And don't worry, I will explain what Google Cloud Application Integration is. Then Pulkit will walk you through a bit detailed deep dive in regards to unlocking AI agents with application integration. So really showing you the details in regards to how exactly do we work and the benefits and the advantages so that you can understand exactly the business value, the ROI, when using application integration, when creating your agentic experiences. Moving along, Pulkit will also showcase a customer use case, an example. So there's going to be a lot of demos, so stick around so you can exactly see how we work with agent space and application integration. And finally, I will wrap up with application integration value proposition, showcasing that application integration goes beyond the agentic experience, beyond unlocking AI agents, and in fact enters the world of orchestrating event-driven architectures, and of course, automating business workflows and many more. So please stick around. It's going to be hopefully an exciting session, going through all the different details of how to ensure you have a governed, scalable, and secure ecosystem when it comes to building your agentic experiences. So, introduction. Fragmented technology systems have been a problem for decades. Of course, we all know this. The past couple of years, the past 10, 15 years, we've been using different business applications. Different business applications have improved. In fact, they've become much better, tons of features, tailored, personalized. But the issue is that we keep facing is the integration between all these different systems. How do they work together? And ultimately, what we're seeing is a surge in different technologies. And these technologies are exciting, nonetheless, extremely innovative. Things like large language models, agents, generative AI, and of course, many other different types of innovations. And this list is just going to increase and help us with rapid innovation and governance and security. But ultimately, we still face the same issue, which is bringing all of our data together. How do we fit all of our business applications together? How do we make sense of all these new tools that we keep hearing about? And how do we really kind of bring them together to inspire access to information quickly, to ensure that we have a governed approach for connecting data sources? Of course, if I just say the issue is connecting data sources, it's a bit simple. You just write some code and you connect data sources. But we must remember, we are enterprises, right? And an enterprise requires governance, requires security, and of course, it requires code, or at least orchestration, that can be scalable, okay? And of course, we want to ensure that we take action. That's the whole point of agents, right? So the whole point is to ensure that we have this autonomous way of taking actions to really, have a kind of workflow that can perform actions for us, okay? And that's where Google Cloud comes in. So we understand this, navigating this brand new, complex technological landscape can be a bit difficult. There's too much to focus on. Should we focus on AI? Should we focus on integration? Should we focus on agents? Should we focus on LLMs? And the goal of Google Cloud, aside from, of course, scalability, is to abstract these complexities and to ensure that you are focusing on innovating, on delivering value to your company, and we take care of everything else. We take care of the security, we take care of the integrations, and many more. So, of course, that's where we came up with Agent Space. An Agent Space is a single, secure platform to build, manage, and adopt AI agents at scale. And of course, to unlock the potential of individuals, teams, and entire enterprises. So of course, instead of moving, instead of looking at the typical reactive AI, which is just a Gen AI chatbot, for example, now what we're doing is we're moving towards a proactive AI experience, whereby you have a hub, which is Agent Space, that you can build and deploy autonomous agents, and of course, use it as an enterprise search for all of your employees. So you don't just ask questions, but you also give them goals. The agents themselves that you build and deploy can reason, plan, remember, and of course, take actions to complete tasks on your behalf. You can even give agents a goal like, for example, a high priority customer has just had a major service outage. Handle it. Okay, that's the future that we're heading towards. And the agent can thereby reason that this means I need to understand the customer, open a support ticket, notify the account manager, issue a service credit, send a personalized apology. And that's the power of Agent Space. It's a system of intelligence that can plan complex work. It's bringing all these different agents together to provide an interface for users to proactively find and synthesize and chat with information. So that's one of the main key benefits and features of Agent Space. It's also a place for employees to understand, to reason and make sense of complex information with Gemini and other pre-built agents. And furthermore, it's a way for you to orchestrate all your different agents together to automate tasks and make better decisions. And all of this, within Agent Space, we have a platform that can connect across all of your different business applications. In fact, it comes with out-of-the-box connectors. So Agent Space is the tool. It's a single platform that helps you to kind of use it to find, to understand, and to act upon your data sources using agents, and of course, using the interface. But of course, if you want to use Agent Space to be able to leverage the find, understand, and act, this very powerful UI that we give to our employees to help them with their enterprise search experience, what we need to do is we need to build and adopt agents, okay? So how do we do this? How do we build and adopt agents? Well, we can immediately do this. Well, the first thing we can do is we have enterprise agents, or at least your enterprise agents, the agents that you are building yourselves. This is the immediate thing we can do. This one is a path that we code. So we are using a tool called Agent Development Kit, and this is something that Toolkit is going to go into detail because it works very, very closely natively with application integration. And this helps you build your complex custom reasoning agents, which are then published directly inside of the gallery. And this works with Vertex AI Agent Builder. So ultimately, these two together help you to flexibly customize and build your agents to your wishes and to your business requirements, more importantly. But then secondly, we also have the ability for your users, your employees who are using the platform. Of course, not everyone is an AI developer. So what about someone in HR or someone in finance or someone in accounting, for example? They require a low-code, no-code alternative. And this is where Agent Space natively has an agent builder. And this is where you can go ahead and write in a prompt, please, can you build an agent that does X, Y, Z? And it would go ahead and build this simple agent for you, okay? A simple task-specific agent. So again, if you require more complexity in regards to building your agent, you can use Vertex AI Agent Builder, and that also comes with its SDK called Agent Development Kit. And the second option is if you want to have a little bit of an easier no-code path, you can use Agent Space Agent Designer, okay? And thirdly, of course, we have our own agents. Google has built its own agents. In fact, we have a deep research agent, so you can just use it from day one. And of course, if you look at our Google Cloud Marketplace, you'll find a plethora of different partners, customers, third-party providers who have built their own agents in an open ecosystem where you can deploy it into Agent Space's Agent Gallery. So immediately, we recognize there are different avenues to build agents, okay? And you can explore all the different ways that you can build agents. And of course, Toolkit, just to recap, will be touching upon this point over here, number one. So he will showcase how you can build an agent with ADK. But those agents need tools, okay? So ultimately, agents are amazing to let us understand what we need to do. But the important question is, now that we have a goal, now that we've reasoned, now that we know what to do because of the LLM that the agent is speaking to, how do we actually get the work done? And this is where the concept of tools comes in. So we need to build a tool. And a tool can be simple. It can be a native connector, such as send an email, check a calendar. And in fact, one of the most popular ways to build a tool is by code. Simple Python code. You can go ahead and type in exactly what needs to happen. If the agent has reasoned that this needs to happen, this is how you do it, okay? But that leads to a universal problem. What happens if that tool, what happens if that workflow isn't simple? It's not a native connector. What tool does your agent call when it needs to run a 10-step custom stateful process that is unique to your company, something that is deterministic to your company? Of course, this is where you'd have to roll up your sleeves and let's learn our Python skills, okay? And let's bring our Java skills. And we would then go ahead and write some custom Python or Java. And how does it actually execute the full complex multi-system process that is unique to your business? Again, we're speaking about the tool here, not the agent layer, but what the agent does to speak to those systems. How does it actually look up the customer's billing tier in, for example, your on-premise SAP system, for example? How does it actually process a payment that involves 3 different legacy applications and a custom database? How does it orchestrate a workflow that needs to wait for a human manager's approval before it proceeds? Remember, the agent is the brain. It's more about understanding or reasoning, what do we need to do? But then it uses the tools to actually do it. So that workflow needs to be orchestrated. It needs to be designed, and of course, it needs to be created. And that low-level stateful integration engine, that's where we need to go ahead and understand and really call upon a dedicated enterprise-grade tool. And that's where Google Cloud Application Integration comes in, okay? Google Cloud Application Integration is our low-code, no-code business workflow automation tool, okay? It helps you to create that workflow that is needed by the agent. So for example, when you're creating an agent, instead of coding the entire workflow and, increasing that shadow IT that keeps all the CIOs up at night. And, perhaps, of course, the more code you write, the more technical debt you're incurring. And at the beginning, it seems perfectly fine. And, we can write 50 lines of code. But, once your agents start to increase, the complexities start to increase, of course, you're going to end up with 50,000 lines of code by the end of the year. And ultimately, we need to govern these workflows. We need to monitor them and many more. So this is application integration. As you can see here, here are the common features of application integration. It has a visual integration designer. It has a plug and play connectors. So we have over 100 plug and play connectors to your on-premise or cloud ecosystems with private connectivity if necessary. There is a versatile amount of tasks and transformations that can be performed on your workflows. And of course, the entirety of application integration is cloud native, is serverless, meaning it doesn't require any infrastructure from your side. It's completely running on Google Cloud servers, maintained, scaled by Google, on Google's infrastructure, okay? And just to give you a bit more technical details before I hand over to Pulkit, ultimately, it's an iPaaS, it's an integration platform as a service, for those who know what iPaaS is. So initially, when you're designing your workflow, you have a trigger, and this could be an API trigger. It could be an event that comes in via a message. It could be a schedule trigger, for example. We even have, third-party custom triggers, for example, like Kafka. Something happens in Kafka, it triggers a workflow, for example. We have, the ability to manipulate the workflow. So we can do some data mapping, data transformation, filtering, merging, logging. And of course, we can monitor. We can do some error handling. We can do retries, and we can do many, many more. So ultimately, think about all of the different features that require that, billion request scalability. That's where application integration comes in to abstract that behavior and ensure that you focus on building the workflow and building innovation, more importantly, because that's where your enterprise value comes in, right? You need to build, you need to innovate, you need to orchestrate, and let us focus on the kind of mundane manual processes, the monitoring. Let us focus on the orchestration, the security, the governance, and many more. And of course, it has connectors, as you can see there, to over 100 plus different third-party and Google ecosystems. So that's application integration. That's the introduction. I'm just setting the scene. Agent space. Why do we need application integration? Again, just to recap, there's agent space. Agent space speaks to agents. Agents, there's many ways to design an agent and build an agent. But of course, every single way requires you to use a tool. One of the most prevalent, governed, secured way of building a tool is agent space, and is application integration. And I would like to hand it over to Pulkit to deep dive into how application integration works with agent space.
Thank you, Mandy. I'm just going to take over screen sharing from you. I hope all of you can see my screen now. Okay, perfect. Let's get started. So what I'm going to talk about is what we call the last mile problem. And the last mile problem means that you have built a great agentic framework, but then, connecting to all of your enterprise systems, and especially your complex, long-running manual enterprise workflows is still a challenge when it comes to these kind of agents. So what we see is that a lot of customers are trying to use their enterprise workflows with these kind of agents. But most of these projects fail because connecting your enterprise systems and workflows with agents is much harder than it looks like. So we have this last mile problem that we see quite frequently, where you have developed a great agent framework, for example, with the agent development kit. But connectivity to all of these enterprise systems in terms of functionality, security, and governance is still a big problem. So let's also talk about a little bit where this requirement is coming from. Now, typically, the first step that companies take in terms of agents is simple use cases like fetch all my tickets from Jira, create some kind of an incident, or fetch data from this custom system that I've got. And out-of-the-box connectors and APIs, they work reasonably well for these use cases. But where we fail right now is that ensuring that complex workflows like onboarding a new user or approving a PO are not easily consumable by these kind of agents, because these use cases have so much complexity in the background, whereas the use cases like, let's say, fetching some tickets from Jira is simple of fetch and retrieve kind of an operation. Now, Before we go there, just to recap, how do agents try to connect to your enterprise systems and workflows? So they do this using tools. Tools are basically an abstraction of your APIs and enterprise systems, which agents connect to achieve the goal that you want to achieve. Now, the normal process looks like this. First, of course, the user requests a particular agent to do something like fetch data from Jira or run, for example, an enterprise workflow. The agent breaks down the ask into simple steps. The agent has a couple of tools, and it makes the decision on the right tool to achieve this particular subtask. The tool is run. The tool provides a response to this agent. For example, the list of all the Jira tickets for the user, and the agent finally shows the result to the user. Now, but going one step deeper into the complexity. So we also have to think about not just fetching and retrieving data from these enterprise systems, but also enterprise processes that the agent might need to execute. So think about all the complicated invoice management and the payment workflows that you have built in SAP. Complex processes for applying for various kinds of leaves in Workday and having them go through multiple levels of human checks. Or let's say long-running processes in Salesforce where you have to generate a PO with multiple line items for a customer where multiple checks need to happen on. So all of this is not simple data fetch. This is core enterprise processes which power a company day to day. Now, these kind of processes exist in almost every large company across the world, yet there is no widely accepted way to reframe these processes in a way that they can be consumed by these kind of agents. And that is where we fit in. Let's take an example to make this even more clear. So let's say that you have a new employee that needs to be onboarded into the company. Sounds simple, right? Well, not really, because a user account has to be now created in multiple systems you have, like Jira, Workday, SAP, and so on. You might say, I already have an service, for example, a Workday API to onboard a user, a Jira API to create a user, and this kind of agent is supposed to just figure out the right way to call these APIs in the required sequence. So why would I need something on top of that? And to be honest, it is a very valid question. What we see at most of our customers is that their APIs and enterprise systems are not yet ready to be consumed by these agents. These enterprise APIs and systems were built to be consumed by applications, and they do expect a specific type of input, which is not how these kind of agents work. They work on the fly. That is, they determine what is to be called, what tool is to be called, and how to call that tool at runtime itself. On top of that, secondly, we have been building these services in a very granular way for a long time, which means that they are built for applications and not these kind of agents. Going to the user use case, right? This single use case would need calling multiple APIs for multiple systems. For example, creating a new user in Workday, update the user's reporting chain and so on, create a Jira account for the user, assign him to the right teams, giving him or her access to the right boards, and add that user to the relevant SAP groups. Now, imagining just throwing all of these tools to some kind of an agent and expect it to figure out how to call all of these tools in the right sequence with the right data. And thirdly, security and governance is #1 priority for our customers. You won't really want to give your agents keys to the kingdom. That is, you won't want to give your agents admin level accesses to all of your enterprise systems, which might lead to data leakage and is, of course, a huge security and compliance risk. So coming back to the employee onboarding use case, let's look at how an agent might approach this, right? Let's suppose we have all of these APIs from Workday, Jira, SAP, etc., and we just throw all of them at this agent, and we ask the agent, okay, figure it out, right? Just create a new kind of employee in these systems. So this is what we observed it doing, when it tried to onboard a new user. So first of all, if you look at step 1, it tried to call the Workday service, which is basically an API with the post operation to create a user in Workday. At first try, the agent failed to determine the right way to call the API, but then in step 2, it was able to figure it out, and it was able to create a new user in the system. Now, the next step, number 3, is basically the user being created in Jira. Now, again, Jira needs a lot of information as well. And the agent needed a couple of tries to figure out how to call Jira. But it failed to determine that the Workday user ID from the last API's response is the same ID that is needed by Jira in the field user. Thus, the user in Jira was created, but it had no connection to the user created in Workday, which is not how we wanted. And after that, step number 4, the user has to be now created in SAP. However, the company's SAP system is not yet tied to its SSO, which adds more complexity, of course. And of course, we do not know this. Thus, the SAP account creation is also not successful. So as you can see that giving a bunch of APIs to this kind of an agent and hoping that it is going to just figure out how to call these APIs, it is not the right kind of approach. That is why how do we solve this then? So we solve this by not giving all of these APIs, but by giving this kind of agent the right tool to execute the business process which we wanted to execute. And the right tool in this case is a workflow which abstracts away all the complexities of your enterprise systems, APIs, and company-specific processes, which is, for example, calling all your enterprise systems like Jira, Workday, and SAP in the sequence that they should be called and with the right data as well. So just to show you an example of this workflow, how it could look like, as you see on the screen on the left-hand side, this is a very simple workflow that we have built and that can help solve this. So the workflow receives a request that is create this user in all of my enterprise systems. And within the workflow itself, you can configure the format of data which Workday, Jira, and SAP need. And the workflow itself can take care, of all the data transformations, and it is responsible for calling all of these systems in the right sequence and format and so on. And at the end, it delivers a clean, human-readable response back to this agent, which is what we want. So we don't want this kind of an agent to get confused by all the tools that we are throwing at it. Rather, we want to give it a specialized tool that achieves a specific business task that the user wants to achieve. So if we zoom out a bit, this is how the stack looks like. So layer 1 at the top is the AI agent, which is responsible for figuring out what the user's needs are and mapping that intent to the right tool. Layer 2 in the middle is the workflow that we have provided to this agent as a tool. And we have built this workflow with APG and our low-code, no-code tool, which manages security, governance, and ensures that all the systems are called in the right sequence with the right data. And thirdly, it is layer 3, which are all the enterprise systems you might have, such as Workday, Jira, SAP, and so on, which the workflow can talk to. So just to recap, the benefits of this approach are, number 1, reliability. So now we have one tool which is in line with the business task, that is onboarding a new user in the company. Secondly, we completely ensure security and governance by offloading control of your enterprise systems to the integration platform and the API management layer. Thirdly, we can also separate the business logic from this agent. So even if the onboarding process changes, you can very easily and quickly change this reusable workflow which you build. Instead of changing all the various agents which you have built in all the various departments, for example, sales might have a different agent for onboarding a user, marketing might have a different agent. So instead of making code changes in all of these agents, what we have now is a reusable workflow, which is very friendly to even, let's say, business people changing it. Right? So rather than rewriting all of your enterprise processes with code in some kind of an agent, you have a central platform where all of your enterprise processes are represented by these workflows, and these workflows can, of course, be used either with these kind of agents or without them as well. So TLDR, stop giving your agents access to all of your enterprise systems and services, but rather give them access to these curated tools, which very greatly increases the chance of your AI strategy being successful. So how do you get started? Step one is, of course, to figure out 3 to 5 high-value business processes, which are currently manual and take a lot of time, such as onboarding a user. Step two is to create business processes as workflows and ensuring that the correct security and governance is baked in from the very start. And step three is to create an AI, some kind of an agent, whatever you want to build with whatever platform you want to build, and access and ensure that they have access to these simplified tools to achieve the business goals that you actually want to achieve. Now, coming to what we talked about previously. So we talked about 2 products. The first one is, of course, our AI flagship product, and the second is the workflow. So let me show you how both of these products can work together with the help of examples. So let's say you are the CFO of a large retail company, and your company has contracts with various vendors such as Google and so on. Now, right now, it is a big pain for you to keep track of these various invoices that are being sent by vendors, and getting simple stuff like, let's say, show me the top 5 things which are due in the next quarter is a big pain, because you have to go to SAP to do this, and it takes a long time to do it in SAP, and you actually want to build just a simple kind of an agent to do this. Right? So these are the use cases which the solution is really good at. So we have the agent space solution, and it is really, really good at these kind of use cases. So for example, you can use an out-of-the-box connector in agent space, for example, the SAP connector, and the UI of agent space is going to provide you with all of this info. Just keep in mind that the connector example with SAP, it is just an example. So let me show you how this use case would look like when you are trying to run it with SAP. Let me just start playing and increase the speed to 2x. So this is the UI of agent space, and Dan comes here and he says, I need to get deep dive into our vendor payments for Google. And with the help of the out-of-the-box app connector, we can figure out what that was. And of course, we can ask many follow-ups on that as well. So this is basically how a simple search and retrieve operation is going to look like. But then this is not the only use case you have, right? So let's say you work in procurement and you have to manually validate all these bills that are sent by these vendors against their original contracts that were signed with them. And since this process is manual, you have to check it one by one. Thus, it takes a long time right now. So what we can do is we can create some kind of a custom thing, which is the invoice validator agent. And we can create a workflow on the backend, which is a few steps. So for example, if you see on the right side, we have a workflow which receives the bill, and it calls DocAI, which is a GCP service that automatically extracts data from a PDF, and it extracts the details of the bill. Then it calls the contract management system where all the contracts are stored. So in this case, we are using Drive, but this could be a different system as well. Then it compares both the invoice and the original contract, and it figures out if something is wrong. And then finally, it returns a response to this custom agent, which in turn shows it in the UI of agent space. So let me show you how this workflow can look like in practice. So if you see from the top, this workflow is expecting an input, which is the bill, the PDF, of course, and then we are calling DocAI. Then comes the step to contact Drive to fetch the contract for that specific vendor. Then we check if the bill and the contract are in line with each other, and finally we provide a response back. So let's just see a video of how the UX might look like for this. So we are still in the UI of the and let me increase the speed to 2x. So this is the UI of agent space again, and this is the procurement officer, and she is now going to upload the invoice PDF, and the PDF is going to be processed. And this is where we have already triggered workflow in the background, and the workflow has returned the list of all the discrepancies which it has found. So what we can do right now is we can hold this kind of this bill so that it does not get processed. And we can also send an email to the vendor saying that we have noticed some kind of discrepancies in the latest document that they have sent. So this is just a simple example of how both of these products can work together. What I also want to close off by is I want to share a customer success story, which we have been working together. And so we are basically working with a customer who is basically an insurance platform. So what they wanted to do was they had a couple of use cases. And if you see on the left, the first use case they had was, so they have about 30,000 brokers that work on their platform. And one of the main requirements of those brokers was that they wanted to retrieve customer data in a single unified view, which is right now not simple because that customer data is spread across multiple systems like Salesforce, Confluence, and so on. And so this data retrieval use case, we can do very, very simply with the help of agent space connectors, right? But if you see the broker payout use case, this is a very complex, long-running workflow, and they also wanted to automate this with the help of an agent. So, and we are going to focus on this use case today. But first of all, showing you what we did for the first use case. So the customer data retrieval use case, since this is a search and extraction use case, this can be easily done with the connectors which we have in the UI of the product itself, such as the Salesforce connector, Jira connector, Confluence, and so on. So this case is easily done. But then we are going to focus on the second use case, which is where we reframe the complex, long-running, manual enterprise process that is processing a broker's commission payouts. So right now, this process takes a couple of days. For example, there is a legacy business process system at the backend which needs to run, which holds all of the business rules about whether a commission payout request should be processed. And then we built a custom agent on top, which calls this workflow as a tool. And the workflow takes care of the various steps which is necessary to process the payout, such as, let's say, calling the legacy payout calculator, which has all the rules, then receiving a callback response through the webhook, and then finally creating a page in Confluence where the person who has to actually approve can say yes or no to the payout. And this is the example of, let's say, the workflow that we built. So as you can see, a lot of business processes, a lot of things to be done, which were being done manually previously and took at least a couple of days to do, with multiple mails flying back and forth and so on. And we were able to reframe this entire process and have all of this done just with the help of prompt. So I want to finish off by showing you a demo of the actual agent that we built. I'm just going to start this off and increase the speed to 2x. So this is basically the custom agent that we have built, and now we have brought this to the UI of agent space so that we have a single pane to work together with all the AI kind of agents that we have built. So this is what we have built to process the commission payout request for brokers. Like I said, the process is currently manual and takes a few days. So let's see how this works. So to start off, this agent greets the user and provides all kind of information about what it can do. And the user asks this agent to process a payout of 200 euros for a broker here. So now we start processing the request and we reconfirm all the details, broker ID, and so on. And the user says, yes, it's all good. Please process the request. Now this agent fetches some kind of data from BigQuery that is required, such as the broker security, deposit, and so on. And it also fetches a potential approval for this. The user passes through all of that and says, yes, looks good. And now we are asking for a final confirmation to submit the payout request to the backend system. And this is where the workflow is going to get triggered. So now the user says, yes, please go ahead with processing the request, and asks if the user has any more requests. So, and this is the Confluence page, which was created from the workflow itself. And this is the Confluence page where, for example, an approver can come and provide his or her decision to the payout request, instead of sending all kinds of emails to and fro, so that the process is completely transparent as well. So this is what I wanted to show you. And now it is back to Mehdi to share the append value proposition.
Okay, I'm back. So that was a lot of details. Thank you so much, Pulkit. Hopefully that made sense to everyone. Thank you for the claps on the emojis. Yes. So thank you all. I've seen a lot of questions, tons of questions. We will get to your questions, I promise. So please stick around. And I just wanted to end it off because you've seen Pulkit discuss how we can extend agent space with application integration, how natively application integration has those native connectors that can index and can access your data sources, etc. But it's ultimately, when you create those agents, you need to create the workflow behind it. You need to create the tool behind it. And this is where application integration comes in and helps you with creating that tool. To be honest, we haven't shown you the application integration, Google Cloud application integration UI. And I saw a question that says, is application integration a subproduct of agent space or standalone? It's actually a standalone product. And this is where I'm going to go into more details about this standalone product. As you can see here, it is a drag and drop designer. You go in, you drag and drop your triggers, your tasks, the connectors that you want to design, etc. You can do data mapping. It's all drag and drop, very easy to do, etc. And of course, we have a monitoring suite, analytics suite, we have a testing suite, and many more. So ultimately, it's a governed approach for building and automating your business workflows. Okay, so that's where application integration comes in. So a quick recap, because we've been flooding you with tons of information. We have Agent Space, which is the single unified platform for managing, even deploying and utilizing your agents, particularly for your employees to leverage that enterprise search capability that Pulkit has showcased. That's Agent Space. And of course, Agent Space, as I mentioned, needs to harbor all the different agents. And ultimately, you need to build those agents. Now, I spoke at the very beginning about the different ways to build agents. Agent Space has its own native agent designer. We have Vertex AI Agent Builder, which also has ADK, Agent Development Kits, that Pulkit also showcased. But regardless of the way that you build agents, you still need to build a tool. And that tool, like I said at the very beginning, typically it's code-based, and application integration is the enterprise alternative to building those tools, to ensuring that you have a governed approach for building those tools. So you are comfortable knowing that all of your agents are accessing your data sources and accessing your business orchestrations in a governed, deterministic, and secure way. Okay, that's how we wrap the agent space and Google Cloud application integration story. Okay, so here is application integration. As you can see here, we have this drag and drop designer. But ultimately, the point here is we're trying to shift the developer burden. Okay, so application integration has a bunch of features, 100+ connectors. It has data mapping, data transformation, and many more. It's an integration platform as a service at the end of the day. And we're trying to remove that burden of developing and building and just creating tons and tons of code, because one Python script turns into 2, turns into 50, and then you end up with a mountain of scripts for different teams, different business units, different agents, different key use cases, etc. But ultimately, the governance teams, the security teams will need to ensure that everyone is creating scalable assets, is creating assets that are secure, governed, centralized. So that's where application integration comes in to take care of those things, whilst you just drag and drop and ensure that knowing that what you're building is governed, is as per your engineering excellence of the company. Okay, and of course, we want to focus on 4 key pillars. Okay, application integration isn't just a specific Google Cloud product for agent space or extending agents. Okay, it goes beyond this. It also acts as a way to activate event data, to be able to ensure that you can create those event-driven architectures. It's a way to allow for process automation. Maybe your HR team, your accounting team, your marketing team, your sales teams, for example, may need to, automate some of the manual processes. So that's where application integration comes in, where they can design those automated workflows. And of course, it allows for API orchestration, where you can put a mini backend behind your APIs. At the end of the day, just to recap over here, we need to ensure that, as Pulkit mentioned before, with application integration, you have this one secure platform that manages all your credentials in a compliant, auditable, and centralized way. With code, typically you just have to store your code, different credentials and tokens all over the place, and it's not really governed. Everyone has access to the same credentials and keys, and it's all in different text files, etc. When it comes to reliability and state, at the end of the day, application integration, it can be stateful. It can also be asynchronous. It can be synchronous. And, it can retry the failed steps. What if you had at step 7, something happened, and then at step 8, it needs to call your IBM mainframe, for example. But your IBM mainframe is down for 2 minutes. Does that mean your entire script needs to crash? Well, application integration realizes that the fault is at step 8 of the workflow, and it performs error handling and retry mechanisms to ensure that it continues from where it failed. So therefore, the entire process is not lost. And of course, it helps you for long-running transactions. When it comes to speed and skill sets, at the end of the day, you're using a low-code platform to help with dragging and dropping. And of course, you've got pre-built 100+ pre-built connectors. Okay, and of course, when it comes to reusability and scale, at the end of the day, you can build a workflow once and reuse it into many different sub-workflows. So you can see how it's a more governed approach to building that tool, to building that workflow, ensuring that you have governance across all of your automation within your enterprise, whether it's for agents, whether it's for event-driven architectures, whether it's for automation of business processes, and of course, API orchestration in a monitored, audited, and of course, governed, secure way. And to finalize here, what do customers use application integration? Just to give you some use cases. As you can see here, sales teams are automating their business workflows to improve conversion, streamlining data across CRM systems, analytics, and lead generation tools. So this is one reason to use application integration. Some of the services teams are using it to, decrease, for example, issues that are happening in in support case tickets. I've seen one use case whereby they are embedding AI within their workflow, because that's what application integration allows you to do. You can call Doc AI, Translate AI. You can call, for example, even Vertex AI within application integration to help you with embedding AI to help you, for example, understand what this support case is about, maybe retrieve some pre-existing responses and help give a personalized response back to your consumers. For marketing, you can create personalized campaigns. Of course, you can even create, events or action, whatever data is coming from BigQuery, which is our Google Cloud Data Warehouse, to help you create a personalized response to users given a certain action. Again, event-driven architectures. For HR teams, it helps with onboarding new users. Maybe you have 15 different ecosystems that you need to onboard your users into. And of course, supply chain and project management, there are use cases there as well. So application integration is a holistic integration platform as a service, helping you to automate business workflows, ensuring that you have governance when it comes to building those tools for your agents, and many more. So hopefully that was useful to understand Google Cloud application integration and how it connects with Agent Space, okay, Google Agent Space, to ensure that you are building deterministic workflows that are governed, secured, and monitored. So on to the questions. Thank you so much for listening to me. I believe I have a slide. Yes. Where is the slide for questions, just so we can recap to everyone? I'm not sure if I have it here. Anyways, if you need to ask a question, just click on the 3 dots and we can do it. I believe I answered the first question. I believe Pulkit can take the second question, but is application integration a sub-product? Just to reiterate, it is not a sub-product. It is a separate Google Cloud product, standalone on its own, that obviously works natively with agentic orchestration. Pulkit, second question, if you may.
Yeah, sure. I think I just responded in the chat, but I can also say here. So the second question is, do application integration and APG plays nicely together? Yes, they do play nicely together. So for example, it is very simple to configure a target for a workflow, which is configured with with application integration for an APG proxy. They are both products which have been built by the same team, so of course they have a lot of let's say ease when you want to work together with them. Yeah. Mandy, do you want me to just go with the questions, or should we do one by one? Do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, if you want to, you can take the next one. I just want to show, by the way, when it comes to Apigee and application integration, we have native out-of-the-box policies directly integrating between Apigee and application integration. So it's not just work together. In fact, it's one team. So ultimately, they work very natively. It's actually part of an architecture. It's having Apigee on top and application integration, being called after Apigee. So you can see we have a native integration call-out policy.
Perfect. Then the next one is, how do you see the evaluation of MCP and possibly enterprise registries of MCP tools available to agents? Really, really good question. MCP is interesting. However, be aware that all MCP does right now is just wrap an API endpoint, right? And all the enterprise governance, security, and so on is still required on that MCP server, let's say, and the tools that it is trying to expose. So, and a workflow that you build is also basically an API point, right? So you can also wrap it within an MCP server, and that MCP server and its tools can be available to these kind of agents to do whatever they want to do with these kind of agents. So this story fits very natively within the whole MCP layer as well. What I would say is give a really hard thought to which kind of APIs do you want to expose in your MCP server, because I see a lot of people are exposing a lot of APIs, which is probably not the best approach. So don't take all of your enterprise APIs and spin up an MCP server on top of each one of them, because that is not the right approach. And we have seen that the things that you build, in this approach typically tend not to do well. So really think about what your users are going to ask this agent and develop your tools according to that business use case.
Okay, hopefully that was answered. Thank you, Pulkit. The next question, what if I need the agent to take actions within a predefined set of rules, like follow a specified naming convention or configure instances in a specific way based on design? Can agent space reliably follow those rules, or do I need to implement the logic in the workflow? So with agent space, of course, you can set a list of instructions. It's actually in the agent designer part of agent space, where you can say, if the person says this, then please reply with this. But if you have more non-negotiable kind of a non-negotiable workflow that needs to be kind of deterministic, it needs to be followed. So let's say a procurement or a payment system, right? First, do this, then do this, then do this. It needs to follow a precise order, and maybe there requires some data mapping between different systems, etc. That's where we need, traditionally you need code. But then now in today's enterprise world, that's where an iPaaS comes in, which is Google Cloud Application Integration. So that's why we're doing this presentation, to showcase that we are seeing these advanced use cases. We're seeing the need for governance, the need for compliance, and that's what application integration gives you. It gives you that compliance. It gives you the ability to orchestrate, to architect those predefined set of rules that you can go ahead and follow that workflow. So hopefully that answers your question in regards to the difference between application integration and agent space. Agent space is the brain, where you just set some instructions and it follows those instructions. But when it comes to the more of the how is it actually done behind the scenes, like how is my workflow implemented, that's where you need to either do it by code, as mentioned, but of course, we are all enterprises here, and we don't want to keep writing 50,000 lines of code every year. So of course, application integration is the governed way of taking care of those architectures. Pulkit, do you want to handle the next one, or do you want to continue?
Sure. So the next one is, how do the connectors handle view permissions, SSO? So depends on which connectors we are talking about. Agent space connectors do handle SSO. So you can, for example, determine what kind of data is being pulled in and indexed in GCP from your target systems. So SSO is fully built in. If, for example, a user asks, show me all my Jira tickets, he or she is only going to see his or her tickets. Application integration connectors work in a similar way. So when you are using application integration connectors and workflows as tools, you can pass the user context, that is typically a OAuth token or an identity token, to the workflow and the connectors, and we enforce full SSO right to the backend system. So we both kind of connectors fully support these requirements. Many, next one. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure thing. So let me speak a bit more about indexing. So when it comes to agent space, we mentioned Google agent space. It has native connectors, and those native connectors index your data. Okay, so you can go ahead and perform that enterprise search, that rapid enterprise search on that indexed data based upon the data sources that you connect via the native connectors to agent space. On the other hand, Google Cloud Application Integration has its own native connectors, but they do not perform indexing for Google Cloud native agent space. Okay, so if you are looking just purely to index your data sources for enterprise search reasons, then you would have to use the native agent space connectors. You cannot use the application integration connectors. In regards to limits and data updates handled, this one I would need to investigate more, so I'll get back to you on the chat because it's an agent space specific question. But I'll get back to you. I'll write down on the chat where you can find more details on the agent space indexing limits and data updates. It's a very nice question, the next one. Paul, could you want to handle it?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So can we achieve application integration in multi-region setup for business critical processes? Yes, you can. So when you spin up the product, it is typically tied to a specific region, but you can, of course, you can spin it up in multiple regions, have a load balancer on top that is basically doing health checks in multiple regions and directing a request to, whichever region is working well. So yes, we do support multi-region.
Okay, shall I look at the next one? Okay, so I want to offer tools like get X data from BigQuery, where the data is available, is whatever is available to the user within Google Security Wars. I know that this is doable within the suite, but where do I actually look setting up? So you want to do like user specific authorization. So for this, yes, within application integration, this can be done. I believe it can also be done within BigQuery. It's the concept of passing, when the user is using agent space, ultimately when they log in or when they authenticate themselves on agent space, that token or that access token is then transferred into application integration. And that's what is passed to access the BigQuery connector to authenticate the user, to authorize the user to access the correct data points. Okay, so it starts off with agent space. Okay, that's where the authentication and authorization happens. And then that bubbles down into application integration, which is then used to decide what data points are to be accessed by application integration, given the access token that has been passed down from agent space into application integration. Does that help answer? I believe there should be some tutorials on this in terms of how to do user authorization access. I will find something and I'll post it in the chat.
All right, then I can take the next one. Do you have the GA date for all the discussed features? So everything that we showed today is already GA. The ADK was released in April, and it is and new versions of the product are being released, I think, almost 15 days or so. Application integration has been GA for the last few years, and a lot of customers are using it in production. So all the features that we discussed are in GA. However, new features are being released on a regular basis, and I would advise you to keep an eye on the release notes to see what is coming up soon.
Sorry, I need to answer the next one. I was looking for the authorization one. Let's see, where are we? Okay, so what connectors do you have specific for FS? I believe FS, you're speaking about financial sector. Give thumbs up or thumbs down if I'm correct or incorrect. For financial sector, we have a lot of different, in fact, you know what, let me show you the different connectors. I believe that was a thumbs up I missed. Yeah, that was a thumbs up. Let me show you the different types of connectors we have for application integration. Again, we are speaking about application integration here. So these are all the different out-of-the-box native connectors that we have for application integration. So you can see we have all these different types of Google-specific connectors, but then we have all these different third-party connectors. Again, you can access this website. I will actually share it in the link in the chat, so you can all see it. And you can see all these different connectors that we have out-of-the-box native for your ecosystem. Now, you may say to me, you know what, I don't see any financial sector connectors, and that's okay. The reason being is because we also have a marketplace of connectors. Okay, so we also have created a marketplace of connectors, and this is where our third-party partners are building connectors for certain kind of region-specific business applications that maybe Google has not built yet. So ultimately, you can go ahead and explore our Google Cloud Marketplace for application integration. There is a lot of different connectors for different cities, for different countries, for different governments, etc., different industries, and you can go ahead and explore them. And if you still couldn't find the specific connector that you're looking for, application integration allows you to create a custom connector. Okay, and that custom connector, just so I can show you the ease of use when it comes to creating a custom connector, I'm just going to quickly show it to you over here. There you go, this one. So as you can see here on this slide, this is how easy it is to build a custom connector. You simply provide the details, click on next, and immediately you provide the Open API specification. Once provided the Open API specification, immediately it will build the connector for you. Simple as that. You don't need no Java, no adapters, no need to code, you just need to provide the Open API specification and it builds the connector for you. Go ahead, Pulkit.
Hey, Mandy, I just wanted to say we are 3 minutes over time and probably
yes.
people need to leave. So I was thinking we could maybe do a quick closing and a call to action and just call them.
Sure thing. We do have a few more questions, but maybe we can answer them later on, or maybe after the session. We have the record of all the questions. So again, thank you all for attending today's session. I hope it was very, very useful. I hope it was an interesting session. I hope you've understood the value of Google Cloud application integration. When paired with agent space and how you can build governed, secure tools. If you want to explore more, you can go ahead and explore Google Cloud application integration. Please do reach out to us so that we can explain to you in greater detail and ensure that you have the value of the product so that you can build and innovate quicker, easily, and with ease. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon. Bye.